John Grinham, and you're watching Street Level Network. Well, my background originally is from technology, so I've been a technology researcher for Hewlett Packard, which was an American computer company. And I spent probably 10, 12 years working on digital computer systems to distribute music and multimedia and video and so on around computer networks and to computer systems. And then around '99, we started kind of looking at what was happening in the music industry and realized that there was this huge change going on. Microsoft were going to release a new version of the Windows Media Player, and as a result of that, millions of people around the world were going to be able to, listen to music and download music. And we had an idea that, we wanted to build systems to enable independent artists to distribute music. So we formed a company with Peter Gabriel, a musician, who really had this vision of trying to get independent artists included in this kind of digital revolution. We built this company out doing digital distribution and building digital services and music services until about 2 years ago, when Nokia, it was the phone company, had been interested in moving into services and moving into digital services. And it looked at the music area and again thought that there's been this transition where music had gone onto the PC, but there was going to be another transition and music's going to go onto the mobile device. People are going to want to carry their music with them, wherever they are, and we're actually starting to see this happen now. So Nokia wanted to try and build music services that fitted in with the devices that people have and with the kind of expanding capabilities that these devices will have. So they acquired OD2 about 2 years ago, and for the last 2 years we've been building this service called Comes With Music. And the Comes With Music service allows you to have a device that you buy, and with the device you get 12 months unlimited access to the music service, so to millions of tracks, and you can download those tracks to your device or to your PC, and then you get to keep them. So they're permanent downloads, so it's not a rental subscription model, it's a permanent download that you get to keep. We just launched that about a month ago through Carphone Warehouse. So if you go into the Carphone Warehouse stores now, you'll see these stripy playlists advertising, which will be Nokia Comes With Music service, with a couple of handsets, a 5310 and a Nokia N95. Most recently we've just announced that the phone network operator 3 will also be carrying this service. So you'll be able to buy an 18 months contract with 3 and you'll get 18 months unlimited access to the music system. So I'm responsible for the strategy for the music business unit. So my original role actually at the acquisition was I was responsible for integrating OD2, the company, into Nokia. And there's a huge amount that you kind of need to do, and you take a company of about 100 people and then move a relatively small company into a very large company such as Nokia. And so I spent most of the first year working with some of the rest of the Nokia team on integrating OD2, so making sure that we kept all the people on board, that people still really enjoyed working there, and that we made a complete team from the team that we were coming into within Nokia. So the area of Nokia we moved into was the team that had been working on the music player on the device and had been working on the radio that goes into the device. And so we merged the OD2 services into this team that had been working on the music player applications. For most of the last year, I've been much more involved in the strategy for the business unit. So, where are we going to be going next? We've created this new Comes With Music consumer proposition. What's going to be the next sort of steps? There's huge amount of innovation kind of still to be done, and for anybody kind of moving into this area, I think you'll continue to see this being fascinating for the next 5 years, probably 10 years. I think a few things are going to happen. Now we have these services where you can get kind of unlimited access to the music. It becomes more and more important for technology and applications to be constructed that enable you to find the music that you actually want. So I think the discovery of new artists, the discovery of music that you love, is going to continue to be an area for innovation. The next stage is going to be building a closer and closer connection with that artist. So finding out, exactly when's that artist gigging, what are the latest interviews that have been done with that artist, what's the latest recordings with that artist. Artists, I think, many of them will have a kind of different relationship with their fans. I think artists will engage fans with the production process. There's already examples where artists get fans to pay and for actually the recording of the album and then actually share some of the revenues with them. I think all these things are going to continue to evolve. First of all, this discovery area, we have this unlimited catalogue. How do you find what you love? And then once you've found the music that you love, there'll be many different ways to kind of engage with the artist and to relate to the artist that will come through over the next few years. So for a company like Nokia and for the services that we run, then both the major labels and all the independent labels are really interesting. I mean, the content kind of drives the business. Consumers don't go after a label, they kind of go after an artist and they go after music that they love. The majors are very important. They have a lot of the top level artists, and they can also, they have the global infrastructure that means that, artists who kind of are well known in one country can really move on and become kind of famous around the world. The independents are clearly, one of the main areas that try and grow artists. With the advance of technology, it's kind of democratized a lot of the process, and you're seeing it become much cheaper to record your music. It becomes much easier to put up, certainly, your MySpace site and other ways to build a fan base. And I think there are now artists that are kind of, have kind of new avenues to actually make a living. I still think it's incredibly hard work, and the amount of effort that goes into trying to build a fan base and to keep that fan base engaged. It's still going to be extremely difficult, and only the most sort of, I think, determined a combination of, determination and talent, will enable you to do that. But I think more and more people now have the tools to do that if that's what they really want to go and do. And there's definitely evidence. I was, talking to Peter Gabriel, who was, I say, one of the original founders of Oaky, and they have artists and they're working with artists that are making good livings, but not at the kind of mega international superstar living, but they're making it through touring and they're making it through integrating and interacting closely with their fans. And so I think those opportunities are definitely there. I think in terms of your determination, you still need as much as you ever used to be able to make it, but the technology has brought new avenues. At the moment we work with aggregators, so there are a number of digital aggregators, because for somebody like Nokia to try and do this in every single country and work with every single artist, it kind of becomes very, very difficult. And also there are many, there are competitors to Nokia as well who have got, we're all kind of trying to build, consumer experiences and consumer propositions that work. So I think artists now have choices for who they try and work with. And the aggregators are building up to kind of work much more with the very, very small labels and the very small artists, so that they can get their catalogue kind of onto the service. So for the individual artists, it's much more through aggregators. The Orchard is one, for example, where they're part of the Comes With Music service for Nokia, and we take Orchard's artists and incorporate those into the service. Nokia does, yeah. Sort of Nokia in the UK and Nokia worldwide. I think a few changes that we're seeing is a lot of the the very big companies in the world are getting involved in these services now. So companies like Nokia, and I came from OD2, which was a startup with just 4 people. I still think it's going to be possible to do those startups, but you have to kind of think of where it's going to be new. You have to think of the changes that you think are going to happen. When we did OD2, we really looked at it and said, the kind of PC player, music player it is really going to change the world. And you just knew the world was going to change, and therefore you knew if you were in that changing world, you stood a chance of being able to make it. I think, now you have to try and look around you and be imaginative about where do you think the change is going to be? What things do you think are going to be most important? I remember sitting in the pub when a friend of mine, she worked for Orange, but nobody knew the name of the company. She wasn't allowed to say what the name of the company was. It was before it launched. And she had a mobile phone. And she was the first person I knew that did it. And she was sitting in the pub, and it was actually, first of the small ones, the first one I'd ever seen. You sit there in the pub and you suddenly thought, everybody is going to have one of those. I just know it. I know everybody is. Another example that I found recently is GPS. I think, 2 or 3 years ago, GPS were quite big and handheld, and now they've merged onto the phone. So Nokia does phones with GPS in them. GPS is going to continue to change the world. Now you know where you are, and the device knows where it is. It knows, for example, where the nearest concert is. If you also have a data feed with where are the concerts, where's the artist playing, it can show you how to get that. That's going to continue to change the world. For anybody, coming out of college interested in technology, have a look around at the areas. Try and spot, when you see your friends doing things and you see them some of the leaders starting to use a new piece of technology, look at what they're doing and think, is that going to go to the mass market? And if it does, then how different is the world going to be? And that's what you have to do. And I think if you want to start a business, that's the kind of mindset that you need. There's a few different, moves within the industry, and there's a lot, because the industry is changing so much, there are many different companies getting into this space in many different ways. And as I was saying, I think for anybody looking at this industry to move into, the fact that there's so many different companies in there, the fact that they've kind of got different positions shows it's a fertile area, and it's not going to be static. I think Nokia, we believe that we've got a great proposition when it comes to music. I think we'll see, some differences to it, and we'll continue to evolve it. So people keep asking us, have you thought of that, and have you thought of this? So could you buy it separately from the device? Could you buy it for a longer period? Could you buy it DRM free? All those things. Yes, we've thought of that. The vision at the moment is to create a proposition that is incredibly simple for consumers to get hold of, so they understand. You buy the device, comes with 12 months music. It's permanent downloads, you get to keep the downloads forever. It's a very simple proposition. I think they kind of know that they're buying the device and they're buying the service with it, and I think people will, people start to think like that anyway. You can see it in things like satellite television, where you buy, a set-top box and you buy the service, and the whole thing comes together, and you kind of, people are familiar with that. So I think it is a bit different for the music industry, but I think there's many examples in other industries where exactly the same model is used. And it's not that people don't value it, it's just that the way it's presented to them and the kind of overall proposition is different, and they have to see value in it to want it. And I think we believe they will in this package, and it doesn't mean that they don't value music, it's just they value the overall package. First of all, consumers, people, like the music that they like, and they like the artists they like, and I think the music industry, and particularly the labels, will still have this, great role to play in finding artists and getting them out there, helping them record, helping them, market themselves. There'll be other artists that do it on their own. I think, Nokia then enables you to get your music onto a digital service, and it enables you to connect with consumers as part of comes with music. I think, one of the advantages that comes with music is that because it's unlimited access, then this kind of barrier that you have to experimenting, to finding artists that you want, is just completely removed. And having just started to use it, I am absolutely finding that. Because I don't have to make this payment every time I get a track, I'm much more willing to try new music, and I'm much more willing to try and find new artists. And as a result, those artists will get paid. And so I think it actually opens it up. I think Nokia's definitely part of this revolution, and it's definitely looking to move into services and create value for Nokia, but also create great value for the music industry. And you can only do that if you can create something that consumers want. I think some of the same forces that has hit music. So this ability to carry thousands of tracks on your device, memory capacity and storage capacity will continue to increase, and so more and more types of media will on your device. Some of the new Nokia devices have incredible screens, and if you look to the future, there will be new and amazing types of display. That will kind of not stop. And so I think it is a digital revolution. All sorts of media are getting digitized. Once it is digitized, and once you can then move it into the cloud, onto the internet, or onto a device, then it does change the world. And I think, again, anybody kind of leaving college, the whole of the digital media, the whole of the media industries are going to be changed. And we're only at the very first stages of it. I've done some of them, and they are really useful as a way of understanding more about the industry, of meeting people. There's still, even with all this digital technology, there still is no substitute for kind of a face-to-face meeting and for listening to people, directly. And I think they're useful to find out, what other companies are doing. You can also talk to people, about what you're doing as a company and get their reaction to it directly. So yeah, they're very important.